Can the Saints win 2 in a row at home? Well, the New Orleans Saints are hosting the New England Patriots this Sunday in NFL action, week number 6. And what I thought was originally a very winnable game for the Saints looks a lot tougher than I thought. On paper, these teams are evenly matched in a lot of areas, but a few big differences stand out. And those are the areas I think are going to decide the game. I'm Tim. Let's talk Saints. There's no bigger indication, and I said this in the video film room for the Giants game. The Saints right now are still not a good football team. I'm sorry, but the reason why I say this is because we're going to have to start off where we keep talking about the same stuff before games. Because good teams take care of this stuff. It's an anomaly when they show up and cause them to lose a game, not something consistently every week you have to focus on. Now, continued improvement, yeah, look, you got to keep improving in the areas of recent improvement, for lack of a better way to say it. We've been doing a better job of reducing penalties, especially those pre-snap varieties that are either drive killers on offense or drive extenders on defense, but they still have a tendency to pop up every now and again. Versus the Giants, first time all season we were on the right side of third down conversions. Our offense converted at a higher rate than our defense allowed third down conversions. You, that's a big one. Good football teams can't constantly be in the reverse of that and expect to win games. And we need to keep doing these things. Going to have to be positive in the turnover margin. We talked about this a lot. Offense, compared to other teams in the NFL, doesn't turn the ball over a whole lot. But up until the Giants game, our defense wasn't exactly making plays to force them either. Now, +5 is insane. And get that out of your head. It's probably never going to happen again. And a lot of people were saying, "Oh, we needed that to win the game." I don't know if we needed all 5, but it certainly helped. Don't get me wrong. But if you could stay +1, +2 consistently week after week, and I feel like this team should be able to do that, you're helping your cause out a whole lot. And over the course of the season, that's an extreme positive turnover margin at +1, +2 a game. That's going to help you win games, and it's going to help you beat teams you probably shouldn't beat. And it's the Patriots. That might be the case of this. But would really you can't call us a good team until let's talk about fixing the problems, the ones that keep occurring. We haven't improved that, and they're still showing up. And if you don't seriously start improving in these areas, it's going to be tough to be better than the 5-win team you were last year. Tackling 11.2 after the Giants game. That's about what we miss a game. Entirely too much. Way too many tackles. And I actually thought watching the Giants game live, we had cleaned some of that up. You go back and film, there were opportunities there to play even better on defense if you just make the tackles. Got to talk about the dead zone. And look, you can't call it the red zone until we get in there and start scoring touchdowns. And that's going to be a big problem in this game if we don't. We'll talk about it a little later. But I think this is collectively the scheme when we get in the red zone, the play calling at times, obviously the execution. These are all things that all three have to get better. This is, I think, starting with the head coach, working your way all the way down to the players, that for whatever reason keep getting these struggles in the red zone where we can't convert into touchdowns. And with Groupie's inconsistency, you can't even rely on field goals down there. And again, I'd said this a couple of weeks ago in the Buffalo game, and I'm feeling almost the same way in this one. Red zone might just be 4-down territory, and start consciously going, we're going to win or lose the game because we can't score touchdowns. Well, it's 4-down territory. We are going to step up, grow a pair, and start getting the ball in the end zone when we're inside the 20. Speaking of inconsistency of groupie, special teams, it needs to become special again because has not been very special lately. Talk about groupie has missed more field goals already in 5 games than he missed all of last year. That's a problem. And they may seriously have to start addressing this sooner or later, probably sooner. The kick return issue we had pop up in the Giants game. Can't have that again. Hopefully, everybody now fully understands the rules of where you need to return a ball. Look, most NFL teams are plus 25, plus 30, starting field position on a kickoff. We started our first two drives on the 20. That cannot happen. You're not a good enough football team to give up 10, 15, 20 yards in field position every time the other team kicks off to you. You don't go plus 5 in turnovers. That's a number that was hidden in the Giants win that really could have came back and bit you on the behind. The cumulative effect of all these three things that um, problems that we still need to fix. We talk week after week when, and this is any football team, regardless if you're good, average, or below. You got to start fast in the NFL. You cannot keep putting yourself back in a hole and playing catch up. You had the opportunity to do it against the Giants. You didn't. Defense, as well as it played, it started doing that after the Giants' first two drives. Offensively, you move the ball once, you got a field goal because you put it out in the red zone. A large part of that defensive issue in the first two drives were some missed tackles, some blown coverage, all this stuff that you just allowed to happen. You had some penalties mixed in there too that were kind of costly. You can't get off to a fast start. This team at home, I said this last week, say it again this week, have to get off to a fast start. Get this crowd in the game early, like you got them in the crowd or in the game rather later. Let's start off with that in the first couple drives of the first quarter and see what we can do. See if the team can build momentum, the crowd can come along and keep snowballing that effect like we did basically halfway through the second quarter to the final seconds last week. I mean, you're playing a better team, but after watching Thursday night's game last night, you're thinking, man, the Giants could have steamrolled us like that, and we didn't allow it to happen. You're going to have to do it this week because this is a team, and we're going to break this down in a second. Got a pretty good quarterback who's playing well, got a very good head coach, got some elements of their defense is very, very good. And if you screw around like you have a tendency to keep doing in these games, this is a team coming in here that very well could beat you. And if you mess around too much, you could have a repeat of Seattle in the dome, and that would be absolutely devastating. So keep improving with the areas you've already improved on, but the problems that keep popping up, this is the game. You have to get them fixed because if you don't, you're bringing your chances to pull off a second win in a row down to almost zero. I hate to put it that way, but that's the way it's looking. So as we mentioned just a second ago, look, New England's bringing in a guy who's a very, very good head coach. He's got good coordinators on Josh McDaniel on the offense, Terrell Williams on the defense, who's been out a little bit, and they've had some of their position coaches have to take over for him, or I shouldn't say out. He was on a nobody really knows why, so I'm not going to speculate, but part time was doing some stuff, but it seems like he's back fully now and running the show. Invrable was a defensive coordinator one time with the Texans, got him the job with the Titans 2018 to 2023, where he proved he was a good coach. So he had to do a rebuild there, sort of like he's having to do in New England, and he did it fairly quickly, sort of like it seems like he's doing in New England. Top of that, he's built a staff like Josh McDaniel, for better or worse, has a couple head coaching stints in the NFL. Several other of his position coaches have stints as head coaches and or coordinators. It's a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge on that staff, and so they're implementing things fast over there. They showed up not with a rebuild, but more like a restructure, reload, and we're going to go win football games this year. That's what they're doing. Vrabel and Williams been together a long time. They were together at the Titans, and running this defense, it's going to be a little different than what we've seen and what we run, because what we run in the previous five versions of defenses we've seen, very close to what Staley wants to do in that Vic Fangio theme. Because Vrabel, kind of an old school linebacker in the 4-3, they are multiple, but they tend to be more even front based than odd. It's more leans towards a 4-3 than a 3-4. Overall, probably not a huge deal, except for the fact there's a couple little tweaks in here, some stuff that we probably haven't seen as often in the previous weeks. You can expect them to attack in the run gaps out of that defensive formation for most of it, and they're going to try to bring pressure that way too. You're going to see some wide nine while they're playing those gaps when they want to rush quarterback, because they're going to rely a little more on stuff like the wide nine or overloading one side of the offensive line, using more stunts than possibly blitzes, that sort of thing. But they're going to try to bring pressure without having to try to bring extra bodies. And they get creative enough, they tend to do it. Now, one of the things that causes on the back end is a lot more man coverage than you're used to seeing, as opposed to more zone coverage most of these defense have. And it leads to a style where more aggressive, more attacking. Um, I don't think they're too interested in reading passively than attacking like a lot of the modern defenses do. And it's no secret they want to force turnovers and make big plays from the backfield, the offensive backfield. They want guys in that front in that backfield constantly. That leads to the thing where it's in kind of by design is they're trying to force a lot of one-on-ones. They want their defensive linemen, their edge players, one-on-one battles and win the majority of those one-on-one battles. Our offense is going to have to learn how to win their one-on-one battles. I think they're going to be faced a little more this week with that type of scenario than they have in previous weeks. Like, this isn't that far off what we were running last decade with DA. It's kind of along the very much the same lines, that they're playing it pretty well where we hadn't been the last couple of years when we were trying to do this. So Vrabel and Williams are coming in with a scheme that's going to be different. We're going to have to be able to adjust to it. We're going to have to win one-on-ones. There is zero doubt about that. And we're going to probably have to focus our play calling, our scheme, especially on that fact, in doing some stuff that like teams did against us when you're thinking about what we saw the last couple of years, is use that aggression against them. Not an easy thing to do, but this is one of those reasons why you hire a Kellen Moore who supposedly can tailor the offense to what the defense is bringing and be able to play call and scheme to do it. He's going to have to do it this week, I believe. Now, talking about how much they use man coverage, 34.1% of the time. So basically a third of their coverage is going to be man. That's the sixth highest in the NFL. Last week, we saw more man because Giants are a top 10 team coming in. I don't know where they finished after they played us, but I know they were using a lot of man, and we were getting guys open and making plays against that man defense. You're going to have to do it again and step it up a notch. We'll talk about that in a second against his defense, because you're going to, again, even in coverage, they're forcing more one-on-ones than you're typically used to seeing. And our pass catchers are going to have to go down there and win some one-on-ones, either initially so they can get open. We saw some of that last week. Or you're going to have to make some tough contested catches because there's going to be somebody on you. Rashid, Shaheed, and Chris Olave has done very well and effective what man coverage we have seen this year. So remember, the numbers I'm already tell you is based on the fact, other than the Giants, not a lot of team threw a ton of man at us. Shaheed has 10 catches and 108 yards and a touchdown. Olave, 8 catches, 72 yards and a touchdown against man. It was pretty good numbers. And again, not seeing a whole lot of it. So you're going to have to put up similar type numbers this week with those two. When they get in man, Got to protect Rattler, or might have to be a little mobile, like he had to do at times last week to get away from the pressure, and have these guys break open against man, get open downfield. When we're not open, like you said, those contested catches, those 50-50s, they can't be 50-50s. They got to be 60, 70, 80 our way. Because here's the problem. They have the fourth best run defense, and this is what I did not know, and I went, oh crap. They only give up 85.6 yards a game on average. We have to be able to run the ball to get this offense to move and stay ahead of the chains and do the things we're capable of doing on offense. And our offensive line is going to have to be better in this game. They've slightly improved over the weeks, but I don't think at an improvement rate enough to handle this defensive line that's coming at him. Like I said, it's a very aggressive defensive line, wants to get in gaps, wants to force one-on-ones. You're going to have to win those, obviously. But this sets up to we can't keep relying on our running backs or our ball carriers in general to be able to create the space. You're going to have to step up and do a better job of that. If you don't, and they bottle us up in the running game, this is where I start to worry. It's like it could be a very, very long day for us. Because here's the thing: if you can get our running game established, they're 26 overall in pass defense, giving up 242 a game. It's something we can take advantage of, especially you get the running game going, and we can do the stuff we want to do with our play actions, our RPOs, our rollouts, all that stuff that we've been doing better over the last few weeks, and be able to try to spring a big play against their man-to-man with Olave and Shaheed. And everybody else is going to have to step up because when you look at the rest of our pass catchers against man, they're nowhere near those two. So Brandon Cooks doesn't even have a catch against man to man according to PFF. So they're going to have to step up and create their opportunities there. We're going to have to rely on just more than our top two receivers. But both of those guys are going to have to step up and play big also. So offensively, we're about 307 yards per game total. They give up 327.8. Not that big of a difference. Our rush is 116.8 a game, and there's one of those big markers because they're holding people to less than 86. We're almost at 117. We can't be anywhere near that 86. We have to be triple digits and as close to that 116 as we can get, hopefully exceed it. If you do that, then I think you have a really, really good chance of winning this game. But that offensive line is going to have to show up and play well. Passing, we're only throwing 190.4 game, but we've had some games where we couldn't throw the ball. Like last week, we had some games where we kind of hit the big play in the passing game. But for the most part, we kind of sat once that defense took the game over. Didn't really open the offense up. And I really think that was by design more than anything the Giants were doing. You're going to have to open up this may be the week where, as well as running the ball, we're going to have to open up the passing game, really start gunning some balls. Rattler's going to have to play well, as I said, as the pass catchers will too. Try to get closer to that number that they're giving up at 242. Get over that. Be tough to do without the running game, I admit. So you might have to let the passing game open up the running game. That's an option. Very interested to see how Kellen Moore is going to handle this in the scheme and the play calling. So regardless of which way you look at it, the Saints offense is going to have to come through with a real breakthrough game this week. Just looking at the fact that the Patriots are really that good in run defense, and we rely so much on our running game to be able to make our offense work. So our defense against their offense, what's that looking like? Well, you got Josh McDaniel, who look, head coaching experience that didn't work out well in a couple spots and some other stuff about not taking a job. So I know the guy carries a lot of baggage, but he knows how to run an offense. He knows how to call plays. So I think as an offensive coordinator, he's scary. As a head coach, you're probably not so worried. kind of Kellen Moorish, where he wants to blend gap and zone schemes in the running game. You know, he's had um, top 10 scoring offense 8 times in his offensive coordinator career. Grain of salt, some of that was with Tom Brady, which makes life easier, but still, he knows how to play call. He knows how to tailor an offense to what the offense can do and scheme and play call it against what the defense is going to bring. Not unlike Kellen Moore, the way Kellen Moore tries to scheme and run an offense and call plays. And he will adapt because he winds up with Drake May there, who has a certain degree of mobility and is really starting to play really, really well as an NFL quarterback. Late last year, and it's carried over into this season. You don't always see that when a young quarterback plays well at the end of the season. RPOs, play action, bootleg, setting up deep shots. You're going to be looking at that kind of stuff, but you got to account for him. It's not unlike Spencer Rattler, who kind of does the same thing. And if you lose sight of him, all of a sudden, look, he may not be Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts when he runs the ball, but he's certainly plenty good enough to cause you major problems or to hit a big play with him scrambling around, running using his legs, or buying time for somebody to get open and make a downfield throw. Which you saw some of that in Jackson Dart last week, but what you didn't see was like Malik Neighbors. Well, you're going to see Stephon Diggs. So now you're getting this version of a quarterback with an elite receiver that last week didn't have. They will try to spread the ball around, but that still doesn't help you. They have other good players. And don't forget about Hunter Henry. We had problems with two tight ends last week that, no disrespect to them, neither one of them is Hunter Henry. And Hunter Henry has had a great start to the season, especially in red zone, making touchdown catches. We're going to have to be able to deal with him. So you're going to see a Josh McDaniel more than likely bring in a very balanced and efficient offense. The one thing that's kind of in our favor is now they kind of running back by committee. They never really had one guy they relied on. And I don't know, I really don't know if that's by design or they just couldn't get somebody to step up. Antonio Gibson was playing pretty well for him. And Achilles injury looks like he's out for the season. He's definitely not playing Sunday against us. So now they're going to be looking at their rookie Trayvon Anderson, who scares me. If he ever gets it going, he can. A kick is going to be a handful, especially if they can figure out a way to get him in the open field with the ball. And then Mondre Stevenson, who was a pretty good back, but I think I read somewhere that he's starting to have some fumble issues, and that might play into this. But regardless, their running game that hasn't necessarily been established by one guy, but they've lost one of their part of the committee players. So it's interesting to see if maybe they don't try to unleash Henderson or they don't try to pound us with Stevenson just because that's kind of in the position they're in now, losing Gibson. It'd be a hard read to deal with, but whoever touches the ball in their running game, we can't let them get off the ground because same thing. They start running the ball, get ahead of the chains, put us in some bad positions on defense where they can really use that passing game and Stephon Diggs and Hunter Henry. That's another thing that can open up a long day for us. Is when you look at their total yards, they're 336.6 a game. Almost all of that's passing, 246.4. They're under 100 rushing. They're 27th overall in the NFL, 95.2. Our defense, 17th overall. We're giving up 326.2 per game. So again, you're looking at some numbers that are relatively close there. We're ninth against the pass, only 204 per game. And if Chase Young can play this week and start bringing more pressure from the edge, I expect you can kind of keep that number in your head going. It's going to be closer to sustainable to keep playing pass defense that well. But rushing, we're giving 122.2 up a game. It's kind of almost like the big disparaging differences between the two teams. We run the ball well, they defend the run well. They pass the ball well, we defend the pass well. They don't run it very well. We don't defend the run very well. These are like the big gaps going, okay, what takes over? That I think can be the deciding factor in the game. Where if you're the Saints, the ones that you're down by a lot, a large gap margin, you got to close it. And the ones where you have the large margin, you got to keep it and extend it. I mean, that's really what essentially is boiling down to. Because I mean, even when you look at points scored per game, we score 18, they score 25. You score within a touchdown. Points allowed, we give up 27, they give up 20. Again, within a touchdown. One score game, better than you. When you look at the scoring and you have them at home, again, a fast start may neutralize that a little bit in your favor where you can get off to that fast start, score more, and hold them down. But it's not like it's a huge gap in points. Red zone. Here's the one that I think is going to be the difference in the game and why all of a sudden I'm hesitant to say this is a winnable game anymore. Look, red zone offense, when you're including touchdowns plus field goals, we're 41.2%. They're 63.2. So they get down there 60% of the time, they're getting something. We're less than 50% of the time we're getting anything. But this is the scary one. Looking at total snaps in the red zone, we've had 47 so far this season. We've scored 7 touchdowns. They've had 46 snaps, one less snap, and scored 12 touchdowns. So on one less snap, they've scored basically 30 more points. That's an issue that we knew that the dead zone was a problem for us, and that constantly could come back to haunt us as the season progressed. And look, after that terrible showing of no touchdowns in the dead zone last week against the Giants, which is a team you felt like, especially the way you were playing the majority of that game, that never should have happened. Now you're playing against a team that knows how to put points up, touchdowns up in the red zone, especially compared to you. You're not doing it, not nearly at the pace that they are. Third down conversions, Saint offense, 38%. Their defense, 41.8, basically 42%. Saints defense, 40.4, and so's theirs. So again, not a big gap between our offense and their defense, and our defense, their offense is about even. Once again, you're coming to the point where, as we mentioned earlier, you did a good job against the Giants, converting more on offense than your defense allowed. You dang sure are going to have to do it this week, and you're probably going to have to open up a little bigger gap than that gap you have with the Giants because we were still under 40. Offensively, we've got to get over 40. Defensively, we've got to get under 40 and kind of hovering right around there right now. So we're close, but we're not there yet. And that's one of the things that can offset some of these other issues that we talked about where the gaps are bigger. Convert on third down. Don't let them convert on third down. And for God's sakes, keep them out the red zone. So for once, it seems like the Saints have an advantage, I guess. Maybe we could say when it comes to the weekly practice report and the way the injuries are stacking out. The Saints have one player out, Isaac Yiadom, missed last week because of a hamstring, and he's been declared out also this week. Only other 2 players that were listed as questionable, Alvin Kamara, ankle injury from last week, and it sounds like all week they think he's going to go. They were just kind of keeping him a little limited in practice, but we'll find out. Probably game time decision if it goes the other way and he won't play. And John Ridgway, who's still on IR and hadn't been activated yet, but is practicing with the team, is questionable. We saw that last week with Taysom and Moreau, and they got activated on Saturday, so it's not without the realm of possibility since they're listing him as questionable. He may be rejoining the team on the field on Sunday. Again, we'll just have to wait and see. The Patriots, however, they had a very long list of players on the injury report, but for the most part, limited practices have turned into full practices or they've logged practices each of the 3 days. And you kind of figure most of those guys are going to play. We knew Gibson was out. However, Jalen Hawkins, one of their top safeties, he's up there as a team leader in tackles. He has a sack and a half on the year, an interception. recovered a fumble. Pretty good football player. He's out. Ken White and Anthony Jennings, both edge players. Their top guys are Harold Landry and Caleb on Chason, at least in terms of their sack numbers. I believe Landry's 3.5, Chason's 2.5. But still, these are depth pieces in the rotation. This is, our equivalent of losing like Chris Rumpf, um, who steps up and does so much on the on the reserve role. Kind of what you're looking at there for them. The long list of guys who should play in game, right? The ones we were talking about, limited practices or came back to a full practice by the end of the week. But again, we'll see. The interesting one that they have listed as questionable is Christian Gonzalez, cornerback. That's one to watch. That kid is really, really good. And you're talking about a team that wants to play as much man as they want to play, and you can bet they're going to have him if he's ready to go on Shaheed or Olave. So, thing is, it's a hamstring. It looks like he practiced the first practice, then he winds up on the injury report. And that hamstring he originally hurt back in July in training camp, and he's missed the first 3 games of the year, came back and played in each of the last 2 for the Patriots. So I think he's the one to keep the eye on. I don't know what the questionable tag means on him, if they're kind of like, yeah, he's ready to go, but we were taking it easy on him, or legitimately if there's an issue where they're thinking we might have to sit him on Sunday. So to me, that's the one to keep the biggest eye on out of ours and theirs, is whether they're going to get Gonzalez back on the field. So when it comes to trying to make a prediction on this game, man, I feel like if we get a version of the Saints that improved from last week, a better version of what we saw in the field in the Dome last Sunday, with any ability to tackle better, block better, especially in the running game, special teams better, and most importantly, I feel like missing field goals is going to be very, very costly in this game. I want the touchdowns. Don't get me wrong, but it feels like this could be in the neighborhood of a 24-21, 27-24 game. I'd like to think we're going to be on the high end of this. So I'm going to say Saints 27-24 in this one. But it's going to be a really fine margin for error in this one. A lot like the first 2 games. This feels very, very similar to me, except I'm pretty sure New England's a better team than Arizona is right now, and probably when we played Arizona, they're probably a lot closer on the 49ers level. But there was 2 games we had a chance to win at home. And so I feel not as good as I once thought about this game being winnable, but I still think it's winnable. Saints 27, New England 24. First time here, like what you saw, please hit the like, share, subscribe, comments down below. Definitely give me your predictions and the scores, what you think is going to go on in this game. A lot of it's going to hinge, I believe, mostly on who can run the ball and who can't. And we're going to have to find some big plays in the passing game, both on offense to score and on defense to shut their passing game down, because that's kind of what they're relying on right now. So let me know in the comments. We'll see how this one turns out. Hopefully, we're going to have a good day. And next time you'll see me, we'll be breaking down another Saints victory, 2 in a row. That's a hot streak, right? 3 in a row is an actual winning streak. So let's see if we can stay hot, get one more game in the win column. Till I see you next time, I'm Tim. Peace out, and who dat?